And we're live. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's the last live stream of July. Where did this month go? It's Romania Black, and hello. Oh, H Banana. Yes, working on a Monday. Boo. So this is the last live stream of July. I put a post out on YouTube and Patreon yesterday saying that I'm going to have 2 live streams in August, but they're not next weekend. Next weekend, we're going to take a break. We're only doing 2 live streams. We're going to just spread it out over August. But hello, Sunspots. I don't know what time I will do the August live streams. I feel like I personally like afternoon and evening live streams. I liked those a lot more. And I almost debated on switching this one to later in the day, but I thought, no, I told everybody I would try to do a live stream at 3 different times. So I did a live stream at night, I did a live stream in the afternoon, and this is the morning live stream. But I might go back to the afternoon and night for the August ones because I feel more awake and energized at that time. But I'm pretty energized today because there's a lot to look at for Revolutionary Girl Utena because it's been a while. So hello, hi Sunspots, Aboard Burrito, Space Bars, Skywatcher, hello. I'm excited. So yeah, we're going to talk about Revolutionary Girl Utena. It's been a while since I've watched that series. I've got lots of notes from when the movie ended and about the manga, lots of questions from Official Cloud Bakery asked some, and then I've got some items that I've not really looked at. One of them's right here that I've actually not looked at, so I want to check it out with you all, and we can talk about it. Art Lock. Hi, just joining to say hi. I'm so happy you're reacting to Summer Hikaru Died. Yes, I was checking your channel since anime started because I really wanted you to watch it. Yes, it begins. Zikatur. Summer Hikaru Died, I know came out on YouTube today. Episode 2 is up on Patreon. Yeah, I've actually watched ahead, so I'm caught up with the series right now. The only reason I've posted so late on my channel is because I know once school starts, my weekends will be very busy. So I wanted to have a couple episodes ahead of time so that I'm sorry you all have to wait for my reactions. I really am. But that helps my scheduling because school's going to start here in a little bit and then things might get busy. So that way that gives me a little bit of a cushion to record and get those reactions out. But all I will say about Summer Hikaru Died, oh, y'all, if you thought episode 1 Romania was wild, and episode 2, those of you on Patreon are like, girl. And then episode 3 has been my favorite discussion so far, I think, of all the discussions. We'll get there. And then episode 4 I watched yesterday, and this series, I'm obsessed with Summer Hikaru Died. Obsessed. So it's so good. It's so good. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about it today, but the primary focus is Revolutionary Girl Utena because people have asked that I do a live stream about that series. I'm going to scooch over here. Huckleberry's at my feet, so I'm trying not to squish him. But yeah, so I'm super excited to talk with y'all today about. I put Revolutionary Girl Utena, but then I was also like on Patreon and YouTube saying it could be about BL and GL too. You know what? Just because June ended doesn't mean we'd have to stop talking about it. I feel like that's the reason why they had Summer Hikaru come out in July. The Summer Hikaru Died come out in July because they're like Pride Month over. No. We're gonna keep talking about it even September, October. Oh, I'm excited about that. So yes. Oh, thank you, Artlock. You're very kind. And then H Banana. Yes, I just love Summer Hikaru Died. Going into it blind and just being so surprised by what it's about. Mwah. So good. Also, the fact that Cygames, the company that makes it, is the ones behind the gotcha game of the Uma Musume, the horse girl anime. What a weird turn. What a weird connection. It's great. I love it. Pride Month is 12 months. Absolutely. The rainbow extends from January to December. Why are we questioning that? But yeah, I'm slowly working on the Horse Girl anime video essay. I've been stagnant because I've got really busy lately and I haven't had a chance to watch any more of the anime, but I'm just astonished that Cygames is like, yes, all the gambling money you've given us to horses, we're going to put into yaoi, so deal with that. And I'm like, yes, what better way to use our tax dollars than to make more BL and more queer media content? Yes, go Games. You're doing it correctly. So you're playing the system well. Oh, Aurora, yes. Oh, I know. I have the first volume of The Summer Hikaru Died, and it was given to me by the moderator for this series on the channel. And I said that after season 1 is over, I definitely want to read and review the manga. So we'll get to that. A good use of gotcha money. Absolutely. I like go them. So yeah. As far as I know, Summer Hikaru Died just came out on the channel. I know people are excited. I'm excited. It's made my summer go by really quickly because I'm already on episode 4, and that means it's been a month since it came out, which blows my mind. I feel like these weeks are going to go by very quickly, waiting on those episodes to come out. But yeah, I also feel like, I know I posted on the channel about the August live streams. I feel as if by the time we get to later on in the year, like in the fall, like November, December, I feel like there will need to be like one more end of the year live stream to catch up on the series that I will have finished by then, which will be like Odd Taxi, Summer Hikaru Died, looking into the series that I've just started. Some of the other ones, I feel like I'm gonna have to do a live stream about those. So yeah, so hello, there's a good number of people on the live stream right now. Hopefully you all came to talk about BL, GL, and Revolutionary Girl Utena. I have a lot of notes that were left from comments when we ended the movie and the the series about the manga and the movie. So we're going to talk about those. I've got some questions. Y'all know me. I will get off track. We will talk about things that are not related to Revolutionary Girl Utena. But just a fair forewarning, if you've not seen Revolutionary Girl Utena, we're going to be talking a little bit about spoilers. So be ready for that. The series has been out forever, so you've probably heard of it at least if you weren't watching it on the channel. So fun times. When my pay comes out, subscribe to the Patreon. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I understand that not everybody can do the Patreon, so that's why it comes out a week later on YouTube, but I appreciate the support. That helps out a lot. And then if I end up reading the manga, I don't know. One thing I like about Revolutionary Girl Utena, to keep it on track, is that it's a complete series. The series is done. It's completed. There's really no other reason for us to carry on with Revolutionary Girl Utena, and I like that about it. It's just, it's done. It's completed. You can watch it and be satisfied. And if you want to go out and look at the manga, which I'll show y'all in a second, you can. But with Summer Hikaru Died, I don't know if they're going to do a season 2. I feel so torn because I feel like this series has been very popular. It's gotten a lot of attention. Netflix is looking at them dollars and that money. And so they're probably going to be like, would we pour money into a second season? I hope that they would, because I know the manga is ongoing. So that would be great. But again, I don't know, because the history of series that are BL is like you get one season and it's manga bait, and then they're like, go and read the rest of the series on your own. So I'm like, I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see. Oh, Skywatcher, speaking of BL, I only just realized that Given to the Sea came out last month on Crunchyroll. Yes, I just watched that movie. So satisfying. It's going to come out on Friday on Patreon, August 1st, to start out August, and then it's going to come out the week after on YouTube. So we'll have a reaction to that. Unfortunately, you will have to sync it up with the video because my picture-in-picture version got corrupted, which technology. So I do have the reaction. It's in full. The subtitles are there. I've got headphones in because it's Aniplex, and Aniplex is notorious for trying to silence reactors. So you guys will have to sync it up alongside Crunchyroll with my reaction, but it's going to be there. So it's in full. At least it's that. But it was such a good movie. Jesus says, I'm craving whatever video essay comes from you. I really, honestly, I have the tendency, and it's not ADHD, it's not ADD. I am not that. I know that for a fact. But I have a tendency to want to go between topics. Like I get an idea for a new topic and I'm like, oh, I want to focus on that now. And so I feel like the Uma Musume, I'm torn between wanting to do that video essay, work on the video essay that's has to do with a Donmai series. And then also I kind of wanted to watch Wonder Egg Priority and do a video about that series and why the hype was there and then it died down. I'm torn. So I think I'm going to try to keep with Uma Musume because it's relevant and I really want to get into that anime more because it's bonkers and batshit crazy, but we'll just see where that goes. So yeah, but thank you. I'm excited that you say cook at your own pace. That makes me feel better, right? Art Lock. Oh, thank you. I love analyzing. This is the one time as a teacher I get to geek out and unlike my students, people actually want to listen. My students were like, okay, sure, whatever. And I'm like, but it's fun, you know. But awesome. Utena is great for what it is. Such great fun. Speaking of Nanami episodes, we'll talk about Nanami. But yes, that's a good description of it. It's great for what it is. Oh yes, Sunspots. Looking forward to catching up to a few of the last Given reactions in August. Yes. So okay, one real quick about Given, and I'll talk about it in the movie. So there is this. I don't want to spoil what it is if you don't know, but there's the 10th mix, which has come out after the third movie's content. And the 10th mix is 5 chapters. I've read the first 4 and I was going to read the last chapter. And then I found out that over on like CD Japan, where you can internationally shop for Japanese merch, I found out that they were selling the volume of the 5 chapters along with an OVA. And I was like, ooh, I have a region Blu-ray player. I can play the OVA and not have to wait for it to come out in streaming or whatever when it arrives. So I pre-ordered that. It's going to come in the fall. So when it arrives, I'm going to react to that OVA and then look at the final chapter and have one last Given video for now because I don't know what Kizu is doing after this 5th chapter. So that'll be fun. So yeah, Given was one of the first series on my channel that was BL. And so I always feel kind of loyal to Given and I want to explore those types of reactions, but I want to space myself out because I'm not ready to be on a hiatus from Given. So yeah. Dot Possessed. Oh, it's midnight here too. Wow. Time zones are crazy. Time zones are wild. It's 10 a.m. where I'm at. So that is insane. But yeah, hopefully we won't be on here a crazy amount of time. Usually 2 hours is a good live stream time for me. So yeah, so we're getting into this. Thank you, Eduardo. I freaking love Hikaru. The Summer Hikaru Died. I didn't know what I was getting into going in, and it has exceeded every expectation. It's so good. It's like all of the genres I love. And I'm not a horror person, but it's not like jump scare horror, which I'm yet. Yet. Watch me say that in the next episode. It's like in my face. I don't like jump scares. And so I like thrillers. I like psychological horror. So it's more of that, which is good. And I can do gross stuff. But yeah, 5 p.m. What a crazy time zones are weird, y'all. Time zones are weird. So I have a lot of stuff here, Revolutionary Girl Utena wise. I was sent this giant DVD Blu-ray set, which was insane. I've not opened it because I was like, I'm going to wait till the live stream to look at it. Someone also sent the manga set, which I'm going to show you all kind of some of the images from because some of the artwork is incredible and I love it. And then just talk about the series. Official Cloud Bakery was the only one that asked questions on Patreon. So we'll open it up as we go. But yeah, the manga set is gorgeous. The person, Shiho Saito, so amazing. I just classic shoujo style artwork. Mwah, just absolutely gorgeous. I really love them. So I want to go. I've had these notes. I finished Revolutionary Girl Utena back in April, maybe. It's been a couple months, and I've been sitting on these notes. Thank you, Zikatar. Yes, thank you. I always feel bad because I remember specific people that send me things, but then in the back of my mind, I'm like, what if I say the wrong name? And I'm going to feel really bad if I do that. So I'm always like, I have an idea of who sent this to me, but I don't want to say it and be wrong. And then that person be like, oh, really? You're like, oh, so thank you, Zikatar. I really, really, really love it. It's been I've been sitting on these to look at for a long time because I wanted to make sure I got to the live stream to show you all so that we can all look at it together because what's the fun in looking at it by yourself, right? A bored burrito says Utena was the reaction series that introduced me to your channel. Oh, wow. What a reaction series to introduce. I enjoyed your analysis of the series. I only like it more after each rewatch. There's so much left open to interpretation. Yes, I feel like that's the biggest strength of Revolutionary Girl Utena is it very much is one of those series that has a lot of ambiguity, a lot that's left open to your interpretation. They don't give you all the answers. and they don't wrap everything up in a nice, neat little bow, which is to its benefit. Unlike other hello, wahaha, wahaha, hello. But that's what I like about it. It leaves a lot of things open. And that's the kind of series that I like. We were talking about Apothecary Diaries a few weeks ago and the conclusion of that season and kind of the differences between there are some people that like, and this is true of anybody that reads literature. And as an English teacher, I find students tell me this all the time. Some students are like, I want a nice, neat little bow on the end of my story. I want resolution. I want a conclusion. I want to know what happens to these characters. And then other students are like, no, I kind of want it ambiguous. I want to leave it open and have my own conclusions. So it's fun. Also, Huckleberry is going to demand that I throw his toy, which you all suffer with me and let me do this to him throughout reactions. So, oh, hello. What do we got here? They are amazing sets. They are. Gauchun's right testicle. Was it left testicle last live stream? I feel like it's changed. Did you know there are a couple characters across different works that BL enjoyers call King Yaoi the first, the second, and the third? I'm pretty sure Cheng Xiaoxi is King Yaoi the second. I mean, I'm not going to argue that. I'm sure he deserves the king title. The second is fun. Both kinds of endings to a series can be good. Yes. And Skywatcher, I think to your point, I do love both kinds. I think it just depends on the type of series that it is. And Revolutionary Girl Utena has so many kind of bonkers elements to it that you kind of have to be like, okay, this can end ambiguously and it's okay. Because I feel like when a series goes off the rails, which Revolutionary Girl Utena does frequently, you don't want to over-explain it. You don't want to overanalyze and explain it sometimes. Because I think if you try to give it a logical explanation, then it will no longer make sense. And that was kind of my hang up towards the end of the series, because it started to kind of try to, at one point at the end of the series, they tried to give the series of an event an explanation. And I was like, no, don't do that. Just say that it happens. You don't have to explain it. But they tried to give it like a scientific reason of why this was happening. And I'm like, no, just say they teleported. Just say it's an illusion. Just say it's magic. Don't try to give it a reason. And they tried to, and I didn't like it. And I was like, just say that it's bonkers, has no meaning to it, and move on. You don't have to explain yourself. And that kind of threw me out of the magic of the series for a moment. But Nicholas, you know what? I like an ambiguous ending more. Not as much as a cliff. Okay, there is a difference between an ambiguous ending and a cliffhanger ending. There's a big difference. And I'm not a fan of a cliffhanger ending where they offer no type of resolution, where it just like cuts to, it's like those B movies from the 1980s, some of the 70s and 80s B movies that were made like in the US that were just like straight to VHS. They just cut to black, roll to credits with no resolution and no ending because they ran out of film or didn't know what to do. Those are bad. I don't like those. But the ones that are ambiguous, that you can tell the artist and the author clearly wanted to leave it open, that's smart. That's a sign of their intellect as a writer. It's a sign of what they want to do stylistically. Like when it's controlled, it's really well done. But when it's just done out of, we don't know what to do, then it kind of, the audience is smart. Your audience is smart, and they can tell when you don't know what to do. And then, then it kind of goes downhill from there. Artlog, did you see the trailer for season 3 of Link Click? No, because I'm trying to stay completely blind. And I know that people are going to be like, well, it's not coming out for months and months and months. Link Click is one of those series where I enjoy being bamboozled, and I enjoy not knowing what in the heck's going on and having to bring out Whiteboard Coon and figure it out. So I don't want to go in with any preconceived notion. I want to go dive in head first. Like, what am I? You all will have already watched the trailer, I'm sure, and will be like, oh, Romania. So yeah, I don't know which series, the cliffhanger ending of that. I don't really want to know if a series that I haven't watched has a cliffhanger ending, if that makes sense. Because if I someday watch it, then I won't watch that series. If somebody tells me this is how the series ends, I won't waste my time watching it, because there's too much anime, there's too much series out there to watch. So if somebody's ruined the ending for me, I'm not going to waste my time and watch it. I'm going to be like, it's okay. I can watch something else. But Stars Align, I have watched Stars Align. That one is sad. That one is because of a production issue. And I feel really bad for the creator of that series, because it's been how many years? Oh, softball. Oh, okay, you're talking about Stars Align, I'm assuming. Yeah, that one was because the author, like, the creator ran out of money and the production was just like, "Nah, get rid of it." I hate that for him. I that to this day, that's probably one of the saddest stories of a series is when the creator just had to end it because the studio wasn't supporting it anymore. I'm like, "Dang, I've seen some pretty awful anime out there. This one was not at that caliber. They could have finished it and they just didn't, and it's really sad. It's really sad." Board Burrito says, I think I recall the scientific reason that you mentioned, and it's valid. I didn't like the ending the first time either, but knowing what's going on, there were many things I appreciated on the rewatch. Yeah, I think at that point, it's sort of like poetry. Either you like stylistic elements or you don't. And it's just your own, it's not my cup of tea is the phrase. And I think that nobody's right or wrong. It's just your preference. And it's like, okay, you either like it or you don't like it. Um, yeah, that I do Skywatcher, I do agree that that's really unfortunate that series has kind of a cliffhanger ending. Mm. Another series that I can think of where the ending, and this is not spoiling it, I would go read the manga for this series as well. Speaking of BL, is number six. Number six, when I first watched the anime, the ending isn't a cliffhanger, but you're just kind of like, oh, that's what we're doing. And then you have to go back and read the manga because they finished the anime before the manga was finished. And that's a mistake. I feel like any creator should wait till either the manga is finished or just hold back and wait on that, which is why I hope that like Yona of the Dawn, now that it's getting close to that series and the manga ending, that the creators are like, wow, a season 2 or 3 would be really great. That series. But that's just me wishful thinking. I wish that some series would have a second season because they definitely deserve it. Um, okay, so I did have a comment. Somebody had said with the movie, it was Daniel Baker of California had left this saying a random conspiracy theory in the movie I developed watching it. I feel the role occupied by Shiori was originally meant for Nanami, but it was changed in development for some reason. It would explain the left field toga connection, the scheminess of the characterization, the goofy transformation bit. If there was an episode of the anime where everyone turned into cars, it would 100% be a Nanami episode. Yes, absolutely. That's what got me. I was like, yeah, it would be. And the self-centeredness opposite of Shiori's show characterization, while also accounting for the absence of such a major show character and the elevation of such a minor, if memorable, one to the primary antagonist status. The only thing that doesn't square with this is the jury manipulation angle, but otherwise, I feel pretty confident about this. Maybe it was done because they didn't want to add an incestuous angle to this cleaned up version of Toga. Not sure, just a funny thought at the end of the day. I read this by Daniel Baker and was like, no, that all checks out. I was like, oh, yeah, if the idea in the movie, if instead of Shiori, it had been Nanami the entire time, makes 100% sense. I was like, yeah, I think the only thing that changed was it would have added kind of an incestuous angle between her and Toga. But otherwise, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I kind of think that I was all on board that theory. I thought Daniel Baker did a good job explaining that. Someone else in the movie for Utena, I'm just going through the notes that I have from like months ago, says, if you can believe it, there is concept art of Utena's hair being braided in the back and tucked under when it's in the pixie cut. So there is an explanation if you look for it. Because that was my thing when watching the movie for Revolutionary Girl Utena. I was like, well, why is her hair changed from short to long? And this is giving it a reason. I see the hair playing more into the transformation aspect of the magical girl element of the series, coming from the director of Sailor Moon. That makes sense. You could argue throwing it in somewhere randomly is bad writing, but I find it extremely visually stunning regardless. Yeah, I honestly think that by the time I got to the movie, I was going in with a negative mindset because I was so disgruntled with the end of the series that I really did not need to be as critical about the hair thing as I was in the commentary, but that was just I knew my mood going in, and so I was like, if you're in a bad mood, you just get the urge to nitpick and just like you pick at things, and you shouldn't do it, but we're human and that happens. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that there was like concept art that explained why that happened. So that was good. So those were the movie comments I had. Official Cloud Bakery has a lot of questions, some of which I'm like, I don't know if I want to start with those questions or if I want to go with that. But looking at the chat real quick, talking about Yona of the Dawn. Oh, yeah. Okay. So the Yona of the Dawn, here's the thing about those real quick before we get into these questions. Yona of the Dawn, for some reason, the studio targeted my reactions. They not only targeted them on, they didn't target them on YouTube. That's the thing. They targeted the reactions themselves on the service I had them uploaded on, and on Streamable. They targeted them on there. And I was like, really? So I switched them over to Pixel Drain and they immediately targeted them on Pixel Drain, like the second after I did it. And I was like, and I was a little bit freaked out about that. And so I've been very hesitant to upload them again because I don't want where I'm putting the reactions to get targeted. So I've kind of held off, not knowing what to do with them. And I've just been so busy with the channel, I haven't been able to upload them to a new place. So I feel really bad about it. I'm actively trying to find a new place to put them, but like Megapixel or Megadrain or whatever that site is. So they might go on there at some point, and then I'll let everybody know on Patreon and on YouTube when those reactions get back up. But it's kind of like Demon Slayer. Sometimes a random show just gets targeted and you're like, what do I do? Because I'm like talking about the series, talking through it. It's in a near transparent, tiny little box. So I feel like it's within fair use. And it's just a lot. So I do plan on getting those back at some point, our art lock. It's just frustrating because I don't want anything to be targeted. So we'll see. We'll see. A bored burrito says, I've always felt that Shiori fit the antagonist role in the movie, representing the idea that all girls are either rose brides within the system or witches against the system. Yeah, that's the kind of thing too. I can absolutely see Daniel's comment about it originally being Nanami. The one thing about the movie that made me mad was that she wasn't there at all. And I'm like, but again, I get why she wasn't there because of the way that Toga was in the movie. So I get that. It was just kind of, I could see it both ways. So I think that's interesting. The Delulu part of me is saying they're targeting the reaction because there's another season in the works. Yes, I've heard some people say that too. And I thought, yeah, that would be kind of cool if that were the case. Now just make an announcement. Say that it is, right? So, but anyway, so Official Cloud Bakery has a bunch of comments on here about a bunch of questions for Revolutionary Girl Utena. So I'm going to kind of answer them as we go through this and talk about it. I'm saving their first question for last because it's a big question. The second question is, do you feel like the relationships between the characters would be different if Revolutionary Girl Utena had been made in a more modern time? What a loaded question. What a loaded question. Yes, I think that it would be very different if it was made in modern times. One of the things I like about Revolutionary Girl Utena is that it is a foundation series. And what I mean by that is it's sort of like in the reactions and discussions, I likened it to Slam Dunk. Slam Dunk, which I love, that series is great, is a foundation sports anime. It's not the first sports anime by any means, but it definitely set the stage and tropes and outlines for future sports anime to come down the road. So, for example, if you read Haikyuu borrows a crap ton from Slam Dunk, a lot from Slam Dunk in terms of the structure, the characters, the payoffs. I mean, Haikyuu's its own series, but it borrows a lot from Inoue. And I like that about it. I really do. But I feel like Revolutionary Girl Utena is kind of a foundation work for not only BL and GL down the road, but for series in general. Like there's a lot of references, a lot of things that, we see in Neon Genesis Evangelion down the road. A lot of things that have to do with just bonkers things happening. I feel like Dan gets some things from Revolutionary Girl Utena. I feel like different transformation sequences. Puella Magi Madoka Magica takes a lot from Revolutionary Girl Utena. It's not necessarily the romance angle, but it is a foundation series. Is Revolutionary Girl Utena perfect? No. But I think that it is a really good series. And I think that it inspires a lot of the series that comes after it in different ways. But if this series was made in modern times, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to see it if it were. I talked about that in the reactions because at the time I was like, oh, I wish it would do what modern anime does. But then looking back, I'm like, it could either go one of two ways. Either it could be modernized and lose some of the grit that it had as a series, and it's willing to take risks that don't pay off, because it does take some risks and some of them pay off and some of them don't. But then I could also see, like, if a modern developer thought, well, let's just make it darker. And I'm like, let's not make it darker. And so I kind of, after watching the series and thinking about it a while, I feel like the relationships, to get back to Official Cloud Bakery's question, do you think the relationships between the characters would be different? I don't know. Because I feel like, and this is going to kind of relate to Summer Hikaru Died and some other series. I feel like it depends on how mainstream you're wanting to be. If Revolutionary Girl Utena didn't want to be a mainstream series, I think that they could have made the relationships maybe a little bit more defined, took them a little bit further. But if they were wanting to be more mainstream, I could see them kind of holding back and maybe being like, well, it's more subtext than context. Whereas, do I think in 2025 Revolutionary Girl Utena would have Sayonji and Toga on top of a car shirtless with their pants undone? I don't think they would. I don't think they would. Do I think it would have? The only thing I will say is Utena's character as a whole, I feel might have been given, in my mind, a little more justice in a modern setting, especially when we look at the manga, which I'll talk about the manga. But I feel like Himamiya, for example, Anthe might have been given. The one thing I would say is that in modern times, I think the relationship between Utena and Anthe would have been developed more. And it's my controversial hot take about Revolutionary Girl Utena is I wish there was more between Utena and Anthe. I wish there was more. That was my complaint the whole series. I wanted more between them. I wanted less between this stupid love triangle between Toga getting in there and Akio. I was like, get them out of here. They're not relevant. And I know that they have a purpose, and I know that they're good characters. Well, not Akio, but Toga. But I just wanted more with Anthe and Utena than what we got as a whole. And I think in modern times, it might have been developed a little bit more. I could be wrong. I don't want them to remake Revolutionary Girl Utena. I don't want them to do that. Like, let this series be a time capsule. Let it have its own. If you're going to go that route, do like the Rebuild series for Neon Genesis and just do a movie and just make it batshit crazy. Make it bonkers. Make it as lesbianist as it can be and go that route, but don't remake the series. I'm like, no, the series is a good time capsule, and it's a good representation of the 90s and what people were trying to understand about queer relationships and media. And it serves a good purpose for that. I would hate for them to try to like remake it and modernize it, because it needs to just be a time capsule. It needs to just be a series in itself that you look back on and go, okay, that was that. That was a series. But that's a long-winded way to answer that question. It really is. So, Question 3 says, what are so the movie? Look, I love the movie. No, let's talk about that for a hot second. I love the movie because the movie does what I thought the ending of Revolutionary Girl Utena would do, and that is just go batshit crazy off the walls. And the finale of the series does to an extent, but the movie, people turning into cars, a car wash transforming Utena into a race dragster, a very homoerotic motorcycle ride to smash the patriarchy and ride off nude into the sunset. What else do you want? And I loved the romanticism between and Anthony. I thought it was really well done. There was some beautiful imagery, and it was just bonkers. The movie is crazy, and if you go in going, there's just no holds bar, I feel like the movie is so enjoyable. I love it. It's just great. Aboard Burrito says, having seen Ikuhara's more recent anime, I think he would still commit to some of the toxic relationships depicted in Utena even today. The theme of structured society breeding unforeseen consequences. I like that. Hello, Dushik. I like the theme of structured society breeding unforeseen consequences. I feel like we're seeing that in Summer Hikaru Died right now, like that series. Since we started out this live stream talking about it, I'm just going to bring it up throughout this. Um, I think that we are seeing little bits of that theme as well. Some of the Ikuhara's toxic, I talked about this in the reactions. Some of Ikuhara's, some of his decisions feel like him being toxic for the sake of being toxic, and that sounds weird and bad. And I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes I feel like he's just like, I'm going to make this relationship toxic and I'm going to make these things happen. And there's not going to be a real payoff to it. I'm just going to have this character do this. And I'm like, that's fine, but it's not my cup of tea. I want it to go somewhere. And I feel like sometimes some of his decisions don't go somewhere, and he just puts it out there and says, "Look at this controversial weird thing I did." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what was the result of it?" So, I don't know. Hello. Hello, Karik Swing. Hi. I'm assuming since the avatar is the same that you might be Official Cloud Bakery, perhaps, mayhaps. We're going through these questions now. I'm not that far into this, but here's my thing too, and Ira S is like, that's fair. Here's my thing too. If you're gonna go the toxic route, I want to see the characters that are toxic go through a transformation. And for example, there's like a series like Skate the Infinity. Skate the Infinity, I'm going to bring it up real quick. The main antagonist of that series is very toxic, and a lot of people hate that character for it. I would argue that that toxic antagonist goes through a transformation. He is held somewhat responsible in at least one character's eyes for his actions, and he has to make a decision. Does he fully commit to changing? No, but that's kind of realistic. Somebody's not going to go from being toxic to being a reformed, healthy individual in a matter of seconds. That's not going to happen. Talk no Jutsu is not going to do that. But I appreciate his character because he kind of becomes aware of that toxicity, somewhat works through it, is still a work in progress, but is showing signs of self-awareness. I'm okay with that. But when the character's just like, I'm toxic, and that's it, I'm like, Aboard Burrito says, I do think there's many things Ikuhara does that's rough, like how he doesn't really consider Utena and Anthy's relationship as specifically gay, but more a representative of a minority couple concept. I need this camera to zoom in slowly into my face, doing the Justin Timberlake stare of, I need that happening, because I just, again, I'm going to relate to Summer Hikaru Died. I think there's a difference between Ikuhara not wanting to consider Anthony Utena's relationship as specifically gay, and I'm going to talk about this in the intro for episode 4 of Summer Hikaru Died. It's not going to show up until then, so I'm sorry, but it's just been brought to my attention that the author kind of taking the BL tag off so that general audiences will be more apt to accept it. But here's the thing, Summer Hikaru Died, I'm sorry, it's a BL. It's a gay romance. I'm sorry. The Pearl Clutchers will have to argue with me till the ends of time, and I will bring the receipts and come to them at any forefront. But it is. There's no denying the context, the subtext. It is. Revolutionary Girl Utena, here's my thing. If you told me that the creator does not consider them a gay relationship, I can see why they do, because I feel like there's a lot of moments that they could have made Utena and Anthy's relationship more obvious and stronger, and he actively chooses not to do it. And, someone had commented that bisexual erasure is real. And I was like, yes, because I do consider Utena to be a bisexual character. Anthy, no, I don't think Anthy is. But I consider Utena to be bisexual, and I think that's perfectly fine and should be represented. But then she's in all, especially the freaking manga, we're going to talk about it. She is in these relationships with men throughout those series and seems okay and consensual with some of them. But then with Anthy, it's just kind of like, yeah, we're holding hands and together, but we're more than friends, but we're not going to come out and say that we're gay, but we are, you can see it, right? And it's annoying and frustrating, because I'm like, Ikuhara, just come out and say it. Just commit. If you're going to, don't bait your audience. Instead, just commit to it. And I think some people would argue that he does commit to it, but Sunspot, Aboard Burrito, I think the movie was sort of him rectifying that. Yes, that is the one thing. The movie, I mean, the movie. them naked on the back of a motorcycle together, I do think rectifies it a little bit. But then it's like, what if your audience doesn't see the movie? Because some people, when I was doing the reaction to the movie, they were like, oh, after the series, I didn't watch the movie. And I'm like, then they don't even know that that's a thing. So, Sunspot says, is there anything in Revolutionary Girl Utena that you view differently post Gunbuster? To me, that they are, that's a crazy question. To me, they're interesting examinations of heroism and personal agency. Look, just to plug Gunbuster and how good it is, I think with Noriko, who's the main character of Gunbuster, I think they handle it better than Revolutionary Girl Utena. I honestly do. And that's no shade to Revolutionary Girl Utena, but I think that Noriko and the way they handle her views of heroism and her agency, after watching Revolutionary Girl Utena, when I got into Gunbuster, I was really nervous and scared because I did not want Noriko to get the treatment that Utena gets in the hands of Akio. I did not want that at all. I was terrified the entire series that we were going to go that route. I was even suspicious of the coach mentor character in Gunbuster because I kept wondering if he was going to turn into an Akio. And I was waiting for it to happen. And every episode I was like, am I going to be upset when I'm done watching this? And it doesn't happen, which is great. And I was very happy and pleased with that. So I don't know if that answers your question, Sunspots, but that I do think that after watching Revolutionary Girl Utena, it gave me a better appreciation of Gunbuster in the weirdest ways. But yeah. Girl, Dushik says, girl, I'm so happy you are now reacting to Summer Hikaru Died. I love watching reviews and theories about it. Oh, thank you. That's the one thing I told the people watching episode 2 today. I was like, okay, here's the thing. The theories I have in episodes 1 and 2 of Summer Hikaru Died are now very different after watching episodes 3 and 4. So y'all have to just bear with me. I'm like, Aboard Burrito says there was also the aspect of it being a TV anime, which meant at the time he had to be subtle about it if he was trying to portray a lesbian relationship. So many that's part of it. Okay, can we talk about that? For being a TV anime, I'm sorry. I'm going to get on a soapbox for a hot second. So we had to be subtle about two women being in a relationship, but we don't have to be so subtle about a woman getting sexually assaulted. We don't have to be subtle about a man getting sexually assaulted. We don't have to be subtle about grown-ass men with, half nude in suggestive sexual poses in front of the audience. But anything more than two women holding hands might be a little too suggestive. I just no, that is a double standard. That's such bullshit. I don't believe that. Oh, that makes me mad. That riles me up. It tells us quite a bit that we don't have to be subtle about assault, but same-sex relationships, that might be too much for the audience to handle. I'm like, it makes my blood boil in the worst way. But anyway, I get what you're saying though, of him trying to be subtle about it and thinking the audiences aren't ready for it. It just makes my vein on my head twitch anime style when I think about it. I'm like, hey Truck, hello. Hi from you and Geen. I'm glad you all are together. Those are the moderators of Dan to Dan and soon to be a series coming to my channel in August. So huzzah, great times. But yes, Ira, I think it tells us a lot. Yeah. And I went on a tangent in the reactions. So that leads us to question number 3 from Official Cloud Bakery. What are some things you thought could have been done better? Okay, in all seriousness, without getting on, car X-Wing, the Akio situation in Revolutionary Girl Utena, as someone with personal experience with that, I was a mess after the episode. If you all watched my reactions, I was a mess. And that was kind of the nail in the coffin. I was like, because I talked about in the reaction, and I told my moderators I had seen 3 series back to back that had involved SA, and it deeply impacts me. And I'm still, a decade later, still like healing from it. And so, oh yes, I'm glad that you are Official Cloud Bakery for answering your questions. But even after watching that episode, I was like, I need to not watch this stuff for a while. And so my moderators were like, you don't need to do that. And so they've been really good about getting me away from shows. I don't want to censor myself from seeing any essay in media because I think it's important to talk about it. And I think it's important as somebody that's been through that situation to bring it up to audiences that maybe don't understand from a person who's experienced its perspective. I think it's important to talk about it and it needs to be said. But when the main character goes through it and it's resolved the way that it's resolved in Revolutionary Girl Utena, then it was too much. It was very overwhelming at the time watching it. And I'm better now. I won't go back and watch that episode again because no, I won't give it that dignity. But I appreciate in hindsight that the creator actually, because a lot of people commented at the time that they appreciated the show bringing up something like that and portraying Akio in such a horrific light. Because yes, that part's good because Akio is what so many that get away with this sort of thing looks like a person of authority, a person in a position of power, a person who's physically attractive, who is charming, who's popular, who like there you can look on true crime, you can look on lots of things. It's not just weirdos that get away with it, or they're usually the ones that are caught, but a lot of people that end up doing these things have all of the cards in their favor. And that's why they get away with things like that. And so I think it's important for Revolutionary Girl Utena to have an antagonist like Akio, who is very much not, you kind of suspect him at the beginning. You're like, oh, I think he might be not as nice as he seems. But to see how he gets away with what he gets away with is disgusting. And that's the point. And I think it's important that we have a character like him. But I'll be honest, I went to a convention back in May and there was a series of buttons, like can buttons that were on sale. And there was one that was like 90% off and it was an Akio button. And I remember looking at that button and kind of sneering at it. And I was like, if I ever saw someone that had on their purse or their bag an Akio button, I'd be like, time for me to stay as far away from you as possible. But yeah, so things that I thought could be done better. Getting to your question, Cloud Bakery, I honestly think that an example of poor execution, that's what I'm going to get at. Yeah, I feel like the very last of the series, I would have changed a little bit. And I've talked about that in the reaction. I also, one thing the manga does, and again, I keep bringing up the manga and I'm going to like move this stuff around. There's 2 volumes to the manga. These are the 2 volumes. Ta-da! They're beautiful. They're beautifully designed. Purple and pink seems appropriate. But yeah, no wonder it was on sale. So yeah, these 2 volumes are really nice. The second volume is the one with Utena and Akio on it, which the one thing I regret is that the one thing I don't like is that these are both Utena with the 2 guys that she shouldn't be with. Where's her and Anthe? Where's her and Anthe? But anyway, in the second one, the manga is different than the anime. And people had told me about that. And I was like, okay. But in the manga, at the very end, the one thing I would have changed from the anime is that all of the council, like Miki and Toga and Saionji and Yuri and Nanami, they all show up with Akio versus Utena and have a part to play in all of that. And that's what I wish would have happened in the anime, because in the anime they kind of step back and go, well, I guess Utena will just figure it out on her own, and that's fine. But I wish that they'd had more of a role. And so it was nice in the movie where they kind of came back and did have a role. Granted, of on the back of the one girl as the turned into a Jeep, but at least that was the case. It was fun. So I would have done that. And I also think that the arc with Soji Mikage, that arc, getting into question number 4 by them, that arc's my favorite. The arc with Mikage is my favorite of the whole series. The Black Rose arc is so fun. It is so, there's mystery, there's intrigue. There, it felt like Twin Peaks, where things are like, you're looking at it and there's this unsettling feeling of dread. There's illusions and manipulations, and there's stuff left ambiguous. You're like, well, he's a ghost, but is he a ghost? I just, oh, I'm going to get to that, Z-Guitar. Don't worry. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to bring that up about the cover that's folded in. Yes, I'm going to get into that. But I really liked the Soji arc. It was my favorite. And I kind of thought that Mikage was going to have more of an impact later on, and then he didn't. And I was like, oh, so that was just a one-off thing, which in the manga, it's a one-off thing. In the manga, the second volume, there's a side story that's just Mikage. And there's also a side story that's kind of like the prologue to the movie that are in the manga. So that was interesting. I don't know if they were tie-ins with the series or whatnot. But yeah, the Mikage arc is my favorite. I was having so much fun with Whiteboard Kun when we were talking about those episodes. They were definitely the ones that stood out to me. Aboard Burrito says, I think a fatal mistake the series makes is how it dealt with Akio. I understand they were going for what they were going for was intentionally anticlimactic, but it was definitely not the catharsis people wanted. Yeah, hello, little dude. My day's going good. We're talking about Revolutionary Girl Utena and BL and GL, so fun times. Yes, I think that the execution of the anticlimactic ending, I see what they were going for, but when you build up him to be such a despicable antagonist, and you build up his actions to be so nasty, to just have it kind of end without Utena getting to kind of have retribution was a choice. I mean, and I liked the choice of Anthy just walking away. I liked that. I was just like, what else is there? And then there was nothing else. And it was like, oh, okay. Now, Z-Guitar brings up the inside cover. So like I said, the manga cover, the first volume of the manga is Utena and Toga, which they have a more intimate relationship in the manga than they do in the series. It's kind of similar to the movie. And then the other cover is Akio and Utena. But there is a secret little cover that is shown inside. And clutch your pearls, guard your eyes. Remember how Ikuhara does not want these two ladies to be together? I'm sorry. What? So there's Anthy and Utena in their little rose cover there, nude and such. I don't know how to feel about this. Here's my problem. This is why I need Ikuhara to just come out and say that they're supposed to be in a relationship, because here's my problem. If Ikuhara is like, oh, they're not in a relationship, they're just friends. If that's just the case, then is this exploitive? If they're not in a relationship together, did you just include this nude poster of two women who are just friends, but there's no romantic connotation between them? Is it just fan service? And for what gaze is it for? I have an issue with that if you're not going to admit something. So I don't know. But anyway, so as far as the manga goes, I did have a comment from Noctoral 89 back when the series was airing, saying a quick note about the Utena manga. It was created concurrently with the show. And while it was all overseen by Ikuhara Chio Saito, the manga author, they ended up taking it in a different direction than the show, which they do. In one interview, she talks about doing her best based off of Ikuhara's vague instructions, and then seeing the show was like, oh, so that's what he was getting at. I can't imagine. Oh, little dude says, is it for the gays or for the gays? That needs to be a series on my channel. Is it for the gays or the gays? That needs to be a series on my channel, to be honest, and just have people recommend me scenes or moments, and then I look at it. Yeah. And then, yes, Cloud Bakery, considering their ages, that's creepy, because they're like 16, 17-year-old girls. I'm like, you know, there's a lot of me going, I'm 37, and there's a lot of me looking at this going, I have problems, but it's okay. Like, what do we do? How do we talk about this? How do we talk about this without making the fan base mad? So yeah, as far as the hello A, as far as the manga goes, there are two things that kind of shocked me. that we should talk about is that one thing about the anime series that I kept always wondering about was I was saying, where are Utena's parents are dead. So who's been her benefactor up until the point that she goes to Otari Academy? We actually have a prologue in the manga. And in the manga's prologue, she has an aunt, and her aunt's name is Yuriko or Eureka. I'm going to find her on here. Her aunt in this is taking care of her and is like a caretaker. And so we get her like in middle school or in elementary school. They all look like they're 6'5", and my dogs are going to be loud during this part. But she is living with her aunt, and she also has a friend named Kaido. She has a best friend named Kaido. What I think is interesting about Kaido is that he has glasses like Anthe does. He's also dark haired like Anthe, and he is immediately friend zoned. Kaido is friend zoned throughout this manga. He has glasses like Anthe does, and he has dark hair. He kind of looks like one of the guys that were like following Nanami around and being her fangirls, but he's like Utena's bestie. And that to me lent to the idea of Utena not being necessarily into guys because he's just like a friend, but she never shows any romantic attraction to him. But of course, you could always say they're just platonic friends, and that's true. Yes, little dude, it is so hard to tell that these characters are in middle school because they're over 6 foot. They're just all giants. But what I liked about the manga is that at the beginning, she's saved. It's kind of similar to the movie. She's saved from drowning by this guy. And at the beginning, she assumes the guy that saved her from drowning is her prince. And so she sees this guy that has a very 1990s sweater tied around his shoulders and everything that looks kind of like Akio, kind of like Anthe. And he shows up at her house and she thinks that he's the prince. And then we find out in the prologue, he is not the prince, but in fact, this guy that's dating her aunt. And her aunt looks kind of like Soji, which is also very creepy and weird. But yeah, so what's interesting is from the beginning, she has this kind of preconceived notion that this man is her prince. And also we establish Utena is not a reliable narrator because of this. And then she finds out in the prologue that he's not her prince. He's her aunt's boyfriend. And then she goes off to Otari Academies. We'll say though, one thing that's weird is that at the beginning, like, you know, in Revolutionary Girl Utena, the prince like kisses the tear away from her, kisses the tear from her eyes. In this version, I'm going to show you all the picture of it. He licks the tear from her eyes. He licks. And she also calls him Mr. Licky Lick, which the connotations of high 1990s. But I was just kind of like, oh, okay. So then the friend, Kaido, is trying to tell her, like, you know, no comment indeed. The friend's like, you know, you should probably go off to the academy. You'll find your prince someday. This is the part that got me from the beginning, was that she's about to go to the academy. Kaido, who's a real one, he's a great friend, like him a lot. I wish he was in the actual series. He was a great character. But in this, yeah, this is where she finds the aunt. Her and Kaido, they go eavesdropping. They find the aunt kissing the man that looks like Akio, looks like the prince, which relates kind of to her vision of when she sees Akio being kind of a playboy. I'm like, is this some kind of like Freudian thing where Utena is wanting Akio because he looks like the guy that she liked that liked her aunt instead? I'm like, is this some kind of psychological like maze? What is happening? Because she gets really upset about it when she realizes that she can't be with the guy. And then Kaido, who is a real one, she like tries to save this kid from drowning just like she tried to drown. And Kaido notices her going into the water like she's about to drown. And then the one guy that's the that is the aunt's boyfriend saves Utena again. And Kaido's a real one. He explains to her, he's like, look, Utena, it could just be that this guy saved your life, but that doesn't mean that you have to have an obsession with him. Like, you can just be thankful that he saved your life and move on. And I'm like, I was like, oh man, Kaido is a real one. This guy's speaking all kinds of truths. And she's like, no, he's my prince. And I'm like, but yeah, but the thing that gets me, and I'm going to go to this page because y'all, I was like, what the heck, is that Utena decides she's going to go to the school. She's going to go to Otari Academy. She gets the rose letter invitation. Akio is being a predator from the start of this to a middle school girl, mind you. And Kaido gets really upset. He's like, oh, you're my best friend. You're moving to another school. I'm not going to see you again. And it's really sad. It's like Kaido is going to miss her, and they were besties and they went on adventures together. And then you know what she does? You know what she does, y'all? 'Twas a different time indeed. She takes off his glasses, and you're like, is she going to kiss him? She licks the tears from his eye like the prince did to her years ago. And that's what incentivizes her to decide to be a prince instead of a princess. And I was like, what? From that moment, I was like, what is happening? I liked the prologue a lot, and it added to the anime and giving some backstory. But then at the same time, I was like, what but okay. Nicholas, that's a choice. That was a choice indeed. A bored burrito says, I think that from Ikuhara's perspective, he maybe considers his characters more as archetypes to depict broader societal themes than fully fleshed out characters, adolescents predated by adults. And that's, I think, my thing about Revolutionary Girl Utena is that when I watch anime, when I read stories, when I teach, there's different elements of fiction. My favorite element is character, because characters are entities that we can relate to, we can apply to our own lives, we can better ourselves, we can find relation, we can find community, we can find sources of inspiration. Like, characters can do so much to enrich our lives and stories. And so I love stories that have very fleshed out, developed characters that you can relate to and apply to. And I agree. I think Ikuhara, his characterization is just, here's a concept, and this character is the concept. And that's not bad. Some people like that. Some people are totally fine with that. And that's cool if you're one of them. For me, I just wanted a more developed, in-depth characterization by the end of it. And some characters just end up kind of being stuck in this state, which kind of works for Revolutionary Girl Utena, because the whole concept is them being stuck in this academy and stuck in time. So it's smart. It works. I just, my cup of tea, my personal preference. How many volumes are in the manga? The set that I have is 2, and I think they're like omnibuses, but I don't know exactly how many volumes are overall. The back cover, this is the front cover of the case that Zikatar sent me. The back cover says, once upon a time, a little girl was rescued by a prince. That girl then grows up to be as strong and courageous as she awaits his return. To defend a friend's honor, she challenges a brute. I like that Saionji is a brute to a duel and wins. She is entrusted with the Sword of Dios and the Rose Bride, who's the key to finding her elusive prince. But this won't end like a fairy tale, because Utena has the power to revolutionize the world. Indeed. And then you have Utena and Anthe on the cover. Now, there are 2 other parts. Hello, Bernat. There are 2 other parts of this manga I want to talk about that kind of floored me. But first, I want to show you all some of the pictures of the art, because the art's amazing. So this is the inside cover, volume 1. With Utena, which is nice. There's also this artwork of Utena that's blonde, like strawberry blonde Utena, which feels like blasphemy. It feels weird, but her like outfit is pink. I think these were just concept arts of her, but I like, it's the stereotypical anime. She has the blonde hair, the partner has black hair. So Anthe has black hair and Utena has blonde hair in here. So it's kind of cool. I like it. I also like this one of the 2 of them in the dresses. And then you have Miki and Juri. That part's really neat. I like it. A bored burrito. Is the manga different from the show? Well, other than the prologue I just talked about, there's a couple major differences, which I'm going to get into in a second. One of them is that Toga has a bigger presence in the manga. And Toga, from the start of the manga, is obsessed with Utena and trying to be her prince. Whereas in the anime, it takes a couple episodes and you're kind of debating it. In this, Toga is like, no, I'm into you, Utena. I'm going to be your prince, and I have a crush on you. The one detriment is if you like Saionji and Toga as the anime, you probably won't like the manga, because it's a lot more toned down between the 2 of them in the manga. And I was kind of like, oh, and it's much more of Utena and Toga. But yeah, this is a really nice one of Anthe and Utena. This one's really pretty. I like that. The picnic scene is super cute. There's also this one that's kind of like, I'm like, get out of there, Prince. Get out of there, Dios. Let Hinthi and Utena be together on this one. Get out of there. Also, there's this nice shot of all of them together from the show. And then there's a really cool one of Utena from the movie with the movie outfit. And she has like the movie outfit and the hair. It's super pretty. I like that one. I like when her hair kind of has like a purple tinge to it, which is neat. Also, her in the baseball outfit. Utena in the baseball outfit's super cute. I like that. And then there's all of them. I'll try to get a little closer. There's all of them with like yokai outfits and spirits on there. It's super pretty. I like that. If you like the artwork, and then this shot of Anthe with the Rose Bride crown and stuff, she looks gorgeous with her hair down. Looks beautiful. If you like the artwork of Revolutionary Utena and Chio Saito, it's so Sailor Moon. It's so 90s shoujo. It's really, really pretty. But other than the prologue introducing her going to the academy, she gets to the academy and it pretty much follows kind of similarly the same map as the anime. Like I said, Toga is definitely more into Utena from the start and expresses his crush. The one thing is, like, Anthe and Utena, they're together throughout the whole manga, but they don't get to have the romantic moments that Utena is forced upon with several male characters in the series, and it's frustrating. Like here, Toga immediately, back in episode 12 and 11, when Utena was wondering if Toga looked like her prince, and he was trying to, like, you know, smooze up next to her and convince her of that. Here, Toga just outright kisses her without her consent, like just in the middle of the page. And she does slap him. She's like, get away from me. And so she does, like, he tries to kiss her. They start the chapter with that. She smacks him and tells him, no, quit doing that. She even takes like a rose whip, which is kind of fun, and smacks him with it too, which is great. Little dude, they increase the queer vibes in the anime. That's the opposite of what usually happens. Oh, they do. There were some moments in this manga I was like, okay. Boar Burrito, I didn't know this art was from the manga. Yeah, so the wallpapers are really nice. But yeah, he keeps trying to kiss her in the anime or in the manga here, and she gets really frustrated by it. And to Toga's credit, he tells her right from the get-go in the manga that Akio is the end of the world, and she doesn't believe him. I was like, so he tells her from the start, he's like, Akio's the end of the world, you know, because Toga's trying to get her to go with him and not Akio. And Utena, you know, just doesn't seem the need to. The stuff with Yuri and the one guy, oh my God, Ruka, that's a side story. That's not in the actual manga official story. It's like in the second volume as a side story. I kind of like it as a side story because it gives Yuri the focus, which is fun. And you get to watch her have that whole adventure, and it's all very complete, which I liked. Also, there's every guy in this series, instead of trying to get with Anthe, every guy is trying to get with Utena, which is weird because there's the side story with Mickey, and instead of Mickey trying to get with Himamiya so that he can remember the past, he's kind of trying to do that. But there's a scene where Utena goes over to study at Mickey's house, and she falls asleep, you know, like you do. And Mickey, like, sees her asleep, right? He walks in, she's asleep. He has tea and crumpets ready to go. And he's like, oh, a sleeping girl. What should I do? Should I A, wake her up and tell her tea and crumpets are here? Should I B, let her sleep until she wakes up and eat the tea and crumpets alone, or go do something else with my time? Or should I C, kiss her whilst she's asleep? Like, kiss her while she's asleep and wake her up Sleeping Beauty style, and then get my sister mad at me for all of the wrong reasons. I was like, okay, 'twas a different time. Oh, hello, Bestial Moon. We're looking through Revolutionary Girl Utena's manga. That's what we're doing right now, because people are asking me how it's different than the anime, and there are some differences. So, we do get profile pages, which is cool. So I want to go through the profile page real quick. It says her birthday is December 29th. She's a Capricorn. Utena's blood type is B. Okay, this says she's 5'4". In what universe is 5'4" got them legs? In what universe does 5'4" got them legs? Japan, measurements. What? No. Yeah, Ira, I don't like that change in Mickey's character. Yeah, no, I liked Mickey's character being different and not just being like, let me get all up in Utena's business like every other guy in this series. Her hobbies are any sports, collecting rose teacups, which is cute, and dressing like a tomboy. Her talents are giving piggyback rides when forced by Wakaba. She dislikes natto, fermented soybeans, which I feel like a lot of sunshine characters in anime, like I think of Salamura and Ace of the Diamond, they don't like natto either. Ash Lynx and Banana Fish doesn't like natto either, so that's fun. Although I don't know if I describe Ash Lynx as a sunshine character. And then guys who are clingy. Well, girl, if you dislike guys who are clingy, I don't know. Gloriana says Ikuhara wanted Utena and Anthy to be a couple, and Saito didn't like the idea, so there was a lot of tension between them. Apparently, Saito threatened to walk off the project over it. Oh, well, considering what happens in this manga next, that makes a lot of sense. Because I was like, but why? Why aren't you on board with this girl? She is not. She makes Utena do some crazy stuff in this manga that I'm like, that feels really out of character for Utena. And I'm not saying that as somebody that, you know, has a criticism of the series, but it feels really out of character. So yeah, another thing is that Nanami doesn't have as much presence in the manga, which is sad. I love Nanami. She's one of my favorite parts of it. And I wish she was in it more, but what can we do? Gloriana says, so it had to be toned down earlier on, but Ikuhara got his way in the end. Yeah. Frank Ace, Ikuhara definitely was an amateur anime director with a distinct style like another director, Ano. Mm-hmm. So as a fun thought experiment, what if Otto directed Utena and Ikuhara Eva? Oh my God. You're going to have to give me a lot of time to think about that question. I think they'd be similar. I think they'd be similar because I see a lot of comparison between them. I would honestly love to see Ano's Revolutionary Girl Utena. I don't know if I'd want to see Ikuhara's Eva, if that makes sense. That sounds bad, but I don't know if I'd want to see Ikuhara's Eva. I don't know if I want to see it. Ano's Utena would have more daddy issues. Well, the dad was dead in this series, so that might be interesting. Maybe we get more Himamiya issues explored and more character development. I'm here for it. Miki Kaoru is a Gemini. He's 5'5". Now, see, Mickey being 5'5", I believe that in the series. I believe that. He fencing and piano are his talents. He likes milkshakes. His motto is a life with order. Interesting. His it says vulnerabilities are his twin sister being too unguarded. So that's nice. I want to see if we get any more of these comparisons with the other team members because it listed him as team member number. Here we go. Anthy. So we got Himamiya on here. So Himamiya is a Pisces. That checks. Blood type AB. She's 5'1". Again, 5'1" and 5'4". I see it, I guess. But in what universe is that 5'1"? Playing cards is her hobbies. Playing with animals. She likes talking with animals. She dislikes studying, cooking, and making friends. What does she do throughout most of this anime? Studies and cooks. Although she's terrible at cooking. Okay, who's number 3? Because we were supposed to get their profile as well before Mickey's. Whose profile are we getting? Okay, Jury. Jury is a Sagittarius. That checks out. Blood type A. Her nickname is Beautiful Leopard. Okay. Her talents are fencing, prior modeling experience. Can believe. Jury's amazing. She likes lilies, designer products. Girl be having the Gucci and Louis Vuitton. Let's be real. Her motto is beautiful lifestyle, beautiful attire, beautiful life. She is living in a material world. She is a material girl. Her weak point are too many secrets, which what a world to be in when that's your dislike. So yeah, Akio's in this. Akio, to be fair, in the manga is drawn really, really well. It just makes his sliminess even more shocking when you get more into it. Also, the manga is not subtle about Akio. Akio's whole thing, he sounds like a cartoonish vaudevillain throughout parts of the manga, where he's like, I'm going to make Utena mine and she's going to be my possession. And I'm like, no subtlety whatsoever. They're just like, yep, that's what we're going to do in this. Also, again, Toga has much more of a presence. He's hitting on her a lot more in this. Board Burrito. I'm shocked they didn't mention bowling as one of Jury's hobbies. Right? They should have. They missed a golden opportunity with that. Gloriana says, if they both had Yoji Inokido as the main writer, they might not be that different from what we got. The main difference would be that Ano's Revolutionary Girl would be more misogynist. I'm going to respectfully disagree with that. That seems shade towards Neon Genesis. I'm going to respectfully disagree with that, but I don't have the time to go into that in more detail. But I love Eva, so I'm going to just stay out of that for now, because that seems like I'll get on a tangent. We're not talking about that today. Is there any more character bios in this? I want to see. God, Toga's in this so much. There's a lot. There's like there is a curry side story, which is fun. So they do little side stories like in the anime where we got Anthe and them going to make the curry and do the cooking. It's actually super cute. And I love the little one of our dear little Chewy monkey there with the king's crown on. Super cute. I like the little side story. It's fun. So then we have this version. And I'm going to show you all some of the artwork from this one because it's really good as well. This one has a little bit more Akio focused. I love this one here is pretty scandalous. This shot here of Anthe pulling the jacket off of Utena and her being kind of nude underneath it with the right rose of the prince. That one is a pretty scandalous, like a salacious cover. I kind of like it. But again, the question is it for the gays or for the gays? If these two are just friends, that adds a different view to it. It would have been Yuriko rather than Yukima. Yes, maybe. This one has Akio with Anthe and then Utena that I wish she would have taken that sword and beheaded him, but we can't be so fortunate in this series. Would have been a cool plot twist. I don't know. Maybe. Then we have, I don't like this one of Anthe and Akio and Utena together. I do like this one of Soji and Mamiya. That one looks pretty cool. I like the black rose. You got the red rose, black rose. I like the black rose poster. It's pretty cool. And then here they're in their shoujo glam filter. They're getting their glam headshots, the two of them. And then Toga has like the black uniform from the movie, which looks really good. I like it. Oh, this one has a brunette Anthe and a very blonde Utena with the pink suit. Blonde Utena hits different. Blonde Utena, it hits really different. And I'm not mad at it. I kind of like it. I like her as a blonde. I feel like because we had Nanami and Juri as kind of blonde and strawberry blonde, we needed to make Utena pink. And the pink motif and symbolism goes a lot better. But I'm not mad at blonde Utena. I kind of like it. It looks really pretty. She has brown eyes in this. It's neat. Okay, this one is kind of crazy. This has Utena and Toga and Anthe and Akio, and that's going to get into some of the plot differences between the anime and the manga that I was reading this going, what? So this one is interesting. I like the composition of it. Board Burrito. I've never seen Eva beyond the original series and movies, but I hear people are very positive on the latest film. I assume they're in a better place than these days, mental health wise. End of Evangelion is like if you dropped a buttload of acid and then had depression. Like that's End of Evangelion. And it's just, there's no other way to describe it without getting into like, I have like a 6-hour long recap of End of Evangelion. Go watch that if you want to see me break all that down. But yeah. I liked the rebuild movies. I thought they were fine. This one has a gender bent Anthe as a man. Gender bent Anthe as a man he has the Seinfeld stereotypical the Seinfeld shirt that has all the ruffles from the 90s, which is glorious. I like the blue and the pink. It's great. It's very pretty. Look, we're about to get into in the manga what going with Brianna's talk being about the relationship. You can tell because Saito really put a lot into this picture of them being gender bent, the pirate shirt and everything. Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a little hot second. I wonder if reading the Utena manga first and then watching the anime would have had a different impact. Oh, I would not have done that. I honestly think if I had read the manga first, I don't know if I would have watched the anime because I think the manga needs to be afterwards because the manga does some things that I'm like, and I don't think I would have watched the anime if I'd read the manga first. I don't think I would. I think I would have been like, okay, we're good. But anyway, Saito eventually came around to Utena Anthe. I don't know about the timeline, but a lot longer, a lot more suggestive art is presumably after she accepted them as a couple. Again, we've talked about this earlier in the chat. I'm like, is it accepting them as a couple or is it just kind of fan service? I feel like we get into that. Male Anthe looks like movie Akio, which is a bit concerning, but still hot. Yes. This one has, okay, I saw this one of Utena where she has like strawberry brunette hair. She looked like something out of a Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen 90s movie, and there's no other way I can describe it. But again, I'm not mad at it. And then I really liked this one of them all together in the shot. That one's a really good one. You read the manga first, Bestial Moon? Oh, but I didn't watch the series for a whole year before finding out it was different. We're going to get into why I think that was. That is crazy. Again, I do like this one. I like Anthe with the rich chocolate hair. I think that looks really good on Anthe. I love that one. And I like Utena with the angel wings. That dress that Anthe is wearing is beautiful. Stunning. I know it's the Rose Bride, but it's really, really good. I like it a lot. So we get into there's the side stories. Deep Azure Shadow is the one with Ruka and Juri, which is really good. And then the Black Rose Seal, like I said, Soji's whole story is its own side arc. And then the Adolescence of Utena, they made 2 chapters about the movie, which we're going to talk about. But then To Bud and To Blossom are the 2 main parts of the ending of this manga. And we're going to talk about them. I want to talk about the movie part, and I want to talk about the ending of this with Akio. So it's about the same. It's about the same throughout. Akio saves Utena at one point, and she's reminded kind of the prologue with the one guy that she thought was a prince. Again, I don't particularly care for Akio stripping her sock off of her foot in a suggestive manner because, again, a minor, and he's not. So someone asked, I loved the Ruka episodes. And I'd read the manga just from Ruka. Board Burrito, I would get volume 2 of this just for the Ruka chapter. The Ruka chapters and the Soji chapters were really well done. I liked them. Little dude, I don't know if this is the right phrasing, so apologies, but was the manga as upsetting or triggering for you as part of the anime? Worse or better? My jaw definitely was on the floor for parts of this, but not in the reasons I thought they would be, because I was really worried. I was like, what are they going to do about the anime scenes? Because usually when you read a manga, you're like, is this going to get worse or is this going to get better? And so in this, Akio kind of has a moment with Anthe up in the Constellation Tower, which I appreciate. We got more of Akio and Anthe to kind of get their psyche. But like I said, Akio becomes more of a vaudevillain where he's like, I'm going to make Utena mine and you're going to help me do it. And she's like, okay, I guess, which was so weird to me. But Toga throughout all of this, Toga in the manga is trying to, the one thing I appreciate about Toga in the manga is he's trying to get Utena to realize that Akio is a bad person. And he's trying to be like, now granted, the ulterior motive behind that is Toga's like, you should come with me and not Akio, which is what it is. But he is trying to tell her that he's a bad person and she's just ignoring all of the red flags he's pointing out. There is this one shot of Akio. There is this one shot of Akio as Lucifer, and he has like the wings and the devil horns and all of that in it. And it's very, very suggestive. And I appreciated that symbolism. And he calls Utena the evening star and, makes her seem like, oh, you're so dazzling. I want you to be mine. And then, Utena's kind of not about it, but she's like, are you just trying to tease me? And then she like gets close to kissing him. And I'm like, but why, girl? You just said you were uncomfortable around him. Why are you letting him woo you? But anyway, so yeah, then he kisses her in the Star Tower and Anthe sees it. And you're like, okay, which again, if Saito was not for Anthe and him together, the thing about it is Himamiya takes Utena from the tower back to her room, and she's in like her beautiful hair down phase, and she looks really pretty. But I kept being like, are they going to talk about it? Are they going to do anything? The answer is no. So again, Toga tries to again, all these guys are pushing up on Utena, trying to get in her space and kiss her when she's really confused. And meanwhile, they're both being ridiculous. But here's what I wanted to get to. So we get to the final confrontation. There is a shot here where Utena finally realizes that Akio is a terrible person after Toga's been telling her for the last how many pages. She finally realizes that Akio is a terrible person, and she has this moment in the rain with Toga and says she's a fool, which is really nicely done. I liked that. And she ends up going back to the house and gets a shower, and there's a shower scene with her in it. And she talks to Anthe about it, but Anthe can't say anything. Anthe literally says that whatever her brother tells her to do, she has to do, which is, again, frustrating. But they end up getting back to Utena deciding she's going to face Akio. She's going to do what she needs to do to save the prince. We find out the prince, Akio kind of says that the prince is stuck in the tower, sort of like what the anime did. But then as soon as Utena goes up to help, that's when he reveals that they're one and the same. And we get Anthe stuck in the coffin. This time it's like a glass Snow White-esque coffin, which is interesting, which is neat. I liked that. But she decides to fight Akio. And Akio, meanwhile, is like, no, you're going to help give me the power of Dios by being in this ceremony where you and Anthe get married to each other. We're going to have this engagement and marriage ceremony where you and Anthe get married. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's going to be the contextual part of their relationship that we're going to explore. It really was, like in the anime, a way for Akio to make Utena the new Rose Bride. So, Board Burrito says a scene where Utena actually recognizes her naivete does sound really good compared to her roundabout conversation with Anthe about Cantarella in the show. I appreciate the Cantarella conversation because it was weird, but yeah, I do like that Utena is a little more self-aware in the manga. That part is good. I do like that. So, I also like in the manga, before we got to the part where I was like, what? I do like that Utena fights through, gets the power of the prince, and breaks through the glass to rescue Utena from the coffin. I really liked that part. The thing is, it's mwahaha, all part of Akio's plan to get her to rescue Anthe. And now the two of them, now the power of the Rose Bride can transfer from Anthe to Utena, which is, it happens similarly to the anime. But yeah, so Akio's all imposing upon Utena, which is uncomfortable to watch. And he's telling her that the prince and him are now one and the same. There's nothing she can do. Anthe is presented as the witch, as we see in the anime. And I want to get to this part here. So, again, he talks about how they're going to fight. Utena and Akio are going to fight for real. I'm going to move this to where you all can see it a little bit better. And so then he gets up on her and she's about to cry because she doesn't like this scenario at all. And he does the thing where he kisses the bridge of her nose, which is weird in itself. And he's like, I'm going to kill you, Utena. And he's like, you're going to find out how hard it is to really be a prince. And then they duke it out. But essentially, he makes her into the Rose Bride and takes the power from Anthe and transfers it to Utena instead. Now, I'm about to get in this part here, and I was kind of flabbergasted by it, where in this series, instead of Anthe stabbing Utena in the back, the two of them lunge at each other, Akio and Utena, and they end up slicing each other. And so Akio gets sliced, Utena gets sliced, Himamiya is rightfully concerned about it all. And so at that point, Anthe's like, you think she's going to help Utena, but then the power ends up transferring from Anthe over to Utena. She gets this really cool Sailor Moon transformation, which I thought was great. I liked that. So she has a really cool prince outfit. And I thought, okay, this is going to be really awesome. She's going to kick Akio's ass. And then she has this like Trigun-esque wings and all of that and the feathers. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. She's going to kick Akio's ass. And then what does she do? Instead of kicking Akio's ass, I'll tell you what she does. She's like, oh, like she confronts Akio and you're like, oh, she's going to kick Akio's ass. And then she's like, I'm not Dios. I'm Utena. My name means calyx, the cup that shields the young flower. I'll protect her, Himamiya, even if it means I must destroy the man I loved for Anthe's sake. So I was like, you mean that the man you loved was Akio? I guess she's referring to the prince, but still, for Anthe's sake, she's like, get my mic here right. She says, a kiss and it's done. You and Dios shall be as you were once, together as one. And so she makes out with Akio. And then she's like, you'll cease to exist. And Anthe's like, is that what you want? And then they just get destroyed. It was a big buildup for her to basically, yeah, she just makes out with Akio, the guy that, you know, has been pseudo assaulting her the entire time. And then that's it. The main character just evaporates into nothingness, maybe to be seen again. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like the manga. Yeah, that was my reaction. I went, what? So that's interesting. It sounds like the manga is an End of Evangelion situation when it reinterprets it. Yeah. I mean, on the plus side, there's not the assault scene that happens in the anime, but to the anime's credit, the assault scene leads to things happening later on that at least have some kind of bearing on the plot and Utena's character development. Here, she just kind of is like, oh, I'll use my magical powers to kiss you and turn you whole again. But then nothing comes of it. Instead, everybody goes back to the academy and it's all like business as usual. And the only thing that's different is that the one cool thing that's kind of cool is that Himamiya takes on the role of Utena, where Himamiya becomes like the prince and she becomes somebody. She's like, oh, I didn't need a prince to save me, so I'm going to become my own savior. And I'm like, you couldn't have done that like 10 pages ago. She's choosing to kiss him, so it's girl power. I was like, no. The manga instantly lost me. I do like Himamiya becoming like Utena. She even like lets her hair down and it kind of looks like Utena too, and she's playing badminton. But and then her and Toga have a friendship now for some reason. But it was just, it's not as bad as the end, though. You all are probably thinking, Romania, it can't possibly get any weirder than that, but it does. So she says now, Himamiya at the end of the manga, the regular manga, I'm going to turn this around. She says at the end, she's like, oh, well, Utena's right here in this ring that she gave me. She's going to come back. You know, the ring is yet to be used and the world is still waiting for its revolution. And she's like, I'm going to go look for Lady Utena. When she and I meet once again, that's where it will all begin. This is just the start. So it's kind of similar to the end of the anime, but it's very different. Board burrito. Maybe the evaporation is her graduating from the school, like in the show, the same way Utena didn't actually save Anthe. She only inspired them to save themselves. It is, but again, that was kind of my issue with. Here's my thing. If you want to have an ambiguous ending like that, I feel the buildup should be, for lack of a better word, better. And have more, choosing to kick him to square in the news would have been a girl power. I feel like if she had stabbed Akio with the sword instead of kissing him, if she'd stabbed him with the sword and then they evaporated, that would have been a much better ending. But her choosing for Saito to make the decision to have Utena kiss the man that had been assaulting her rather than stabbing him with the sword, I'm like, is that like love conquers all? But it also presents this weird message of you should give kindness to your predators. And I'm like, I'm not for that at all. And then the end message of, oh, well, I'll just go find this corpse somewhere and we'll just make out on a motorcycle. I mean, I guess if that's your So here's the thing, though, and it ends, the world awaits the power of Dios, and it begins. This is my issue, and I'm going to read Frank's comment first. With anime and manga being somewhat different, do you feel the themes and ideas they were trying to explore diverged? Do you feel either achieved with what they wanted to say better than the other? I think the anime was able, because it is Ikuhara's vision, and Saito in this is just trying to figure out what he's telling her, which makes more sense of why it can be so weird, because she's just trying to interpret the notes that he's given her. I feel like Ikuhara's version in the anime is it does have a complete feel to it. It does have themes they're trying to explore, and I think they are for the most part done effectively. My thing is, this ends with Anthe and Utena together, and I just wanted more to get us to this point, because 10 pages ago, we were about as far away from this point as we possibly could be. And it's frustrating when you like Anthe and Utena and you want them to end up together. And it felt like at the last minute, the author is just like, oh, yeah, and they're going to end up together. Don't worry. I know we didn't give you a lot to work with, but they're going to end up together. It's fine. And I'm like, okay. But I do like the ending. I do like the fact that Anthe's going to go off and find her, and Anthe's been liberated. Like I said in the original series, I would like Anthe to have liberated herself more rather than her have to rely upon people to do it for her, because I think that limits her agency and power as a person, especially a person who's been abused. She ends up, she gets her own agency at the end, but it almost feels like it's just not an afterthought, but it feels like it should have happened a lot earlier. But anyway, so the Ruka story is great. I'm going to get to the part that really bugs me here in a second, but I do like the Ruka story a lot. I know one of you said you really liked Ruka as a character. I do think there's a really good scene. Like, I get this. I do really like the stuff with Juri and Ruka. I think it's really well done. It's great. Aboard Burrito says, in my head, I'm imagining more of like sending off the fantasy prince with a kiss. But yeah, probably not enough time to build that up in a short manga. Maybe it was always supplementary material. I'm sure it was, but I'm just like, what if somebody read this and didn't watch the anime? Then it's like, even if it's supplementary, it feels like you have a responsibility as a writer and as a mangaka. But what do I know? So I do really like this scene where Ruka dies in the side story, but it is very sad. But Toga brings the flowers and tries to talk to Juri, which Toga is so prevalent in the manga. Saito really liked Toga, and we're going to get into that with this. Saionji's stuff is great. I like the side story with him and Mamiya. It's really cool and different. Okay, so we need to talk about the adolescence of Utena before I move on to the other questions that Official Cloud Bakery has. This is going to be longer than 2 hours. I know this live stream is going to be longer than that, but that's okay. So the adolescence of Utena is on here. And with this series, the first page that we start out with in the adolescence of Utena is semi-nude Toga. Now, depending on how old Toga is, that seems problematic. But you may be thinking to yourself, oh, in the anime, there was this kind of weird homoerotic, like kind of predatory thing with Toga and Akio. And so when you see the people behind the curtains, you're like, oh, this is probably Akio, right? No, it is not Akio, actually. So we get the setup that's kind of like the main movie. Everything about the movie is sort of detailed in this, even down to like Anthe first meeting Utena and giving Utena a kiss and then pulling out the sword. That part's all very similar to the movie, which was fine. And so Utena's like, get my mic back here. Utena's like, what's going on here? And then I do like Toga with the little monocles, like the opera glasses. That part's really great. But then here's the thing. So we have all the stuff with Anthe and Utena. We even get into some parts here where Utena has a short haircut. Like, there's no braid or nothing. It is a short haircut for sure. And we kind of get Anthe like hitting on Utena and being very like physical with Utena, and Utena's very uncomfortable about it. So this is my problem with this part of the manga, because Toga's 17. Yeah, then this part's going to get a little bit creepy. So heads up, if you're not into creepy things, we're diving into that territory. My thing is, for Utena and Anthe to be in a relationship, and if you're trying to portray that, from the very get-go in this manga, Utena is very unsure. Oh, he's also dead. That's problematic too. Yes, we're gonna get into that. Utena is not comfortable with Anthony's advances, and one thing about the movie I liked was Utena addressing that, and Anthony kind of being like, "Oh, but Anthony is reacting based on her own experience." So there's a whole layer with that. But Utena's just kind of like, "Okay, sure," and then she gets established as the witch. I do like Utena's outfit when she works there at the school. She has the varsity jacket on. My problem is, just like in the movie, it's established that Toga saved her from drowning. Toga's essentially a ghost. All of that is the same as it was in the movie. And we get the part of them with all of the flowers and the rooftop that has the starlit, the moonlit water on it. It's gorgeous. Like, there's stuff here that's really pretty. Now, we have Anthony and Utena having this sweet moment where they're starting to connect and get to know each other. And then Toga's just randomly there watching them like a creeper. But anyway, so the thing that's different than the movie that I was really thrown off on, do y'all remember in the movie where Toga and Utena have that moment where he's about to drown and give up his life and admit he's a ghost? And he's like, it's to do that to protect you. And he's like, I always liked you and we could have had this thing, but we don't have it and it's fine. You can go off and be with Anthe. I liked that in the movie. I thought that was really well done. Okay. In the manga, because as we suggest from previous parts of this live stream, Saito was not on board with the Anthe and Utena relationship. We have Utena using the Sword of Dios and fighting Toga. I really like all the council members with the opera glasses. Those are all really cute. Love that. But then Toga disappears and she's like, Toga's dead. Has he been dead this whole time? She freaks out about Toga being dead. We come to find out that she freaks out because she, as we find out in this manga, liked Toga. And so then we have the cover that's the two of them, Akio and Anthe and Utena and Toga. And she's in denial about him being dead. But then she sees his ghost. She sees the water in the jacket. She remembers that he saved her life. And she has this moment where she reconnects with his ghost. And she's like, well, how is this possible? She's like, you died 2 years ago. She's like, you were my real prince all along. And it's like, okay, in this version, I guess he is her prince. And she's like, how can I still touch you? How can you still be warm? And I was like, where's this going? I was like, where is this going? Okay. And yes, and Anthe and Utena are 14 at the beginning of the manga. So that's going to be a thing. So get ready. So then she's like, how can this be? And he's like, well, you're the one who feels this, only you. It's your love. So then you're like wondering to yourself, is this all just a fantasy in her head and it's not real? It's just her imagining him being alive and she's able to see this fantasy. So again, let me preface, in a series where Anthe and Utena are supposed to be our romantic leads, Anthe's like, what is this? What's going on? And I turned the page and there is a love scene between Utena and Toga. Like a scene in a different world, if I only knew. They're having a sex scene in this manga, Toga and Utena. And I was like, what? Like, they full on do. And she's consensual with it. She's like, oh yeah, I'm all down for it. Yeah, just them together in the manga. I was like, what? I thought Toga and Utena were like a crack ship, but nope. They're like, they even have like an after scene where it's raining and all that, and she's been with him. I was floored. And she even has conversations with him about